You've probably already made yourself look like a Studio Ghibli anime character using ChatGPT's latest image gen update. That's what everybody's doing. That's what everybody's talking about. But not as many people are talking about something that I, as an English teacher, think is much more important about this update. And that's what we're going to focus on in this video. What is that? Text. It used to be that when you generated text in an AI image, the results would be very unpredictable. It may get some words correct, but not many, and mostly it would just be jumbled nonsense. Well, now, with this update, you can accurately generate text on an image. And this has huge potential for English learning, for language learning in general. We're going to look at 5 ways to do this in this video. So if you look at this image that I created recently, just now, you can see that all of the text is accurate. I just said recreate this image. I took a screenshot. ChatGPT 4.0, what can I help you with? Ask anything. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info. It's all correct. The only thing that's off is this little thing here, which is not a word, it's a symbol. It's a little, it's the little telescope thing. So how do we use this? The key insight, I think, and this is what we're going to do with our first one, is to not try to write the perfect prompt, because then you have to think of what you want to be in the image every time. Instead, you want to create a prompt each time that you use to create an image. The first one we're going to do is what I'm calling a 3x3. So this is pretty simple, and this is for learning vocabulary. And I encourage you to try this yourself with different things. But let me kind of show you what I'm talking about. This is a bit long, but once you create it, and I'll put it in the description of this video, once you create it, you shouldn't have to change it, or you can change just a few details. Create an image prompt that integrates words I want to learn into a prompt I provide. The prompt is like a template. Think of it as a template. I want to learn, and I can space this down just so it's easier to read. I want to learn, and then the words, just as a list. Ecstatic, melancholy, anxious, furious, astonished, content, skeptical, embarrassed, proud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 words. So this is going to be a 3x3, and I want to have these 9 words on a corresponding image. But I'm going to first create the prompt to create that image because I want to make sure that it's accurate and looks correct, right? And then here, instead of listing words, you could say, I want to learn 9 emotion words, or 9 advanced emotion words, or I want to learn maybe 9 adjectives for the environment, or whatever, right? So if you don't want to state the words, that's okay, just say 9 something. And if you have a specific list of words, then list those words. Then you can save this image to a vocab folder to quickly review, right? With something visual, and that's what's important here. Something visual to reinforce your understanding of the word. So it's not just a word you're learning. It adds a dimension. That visual part of it makes it more memorable, gives you a deeper sense for what the word means, right? And is easy to review later. You could do this with flashcards too, but it can be helpful to have that part. Then we have a template, okay? Create a single uncropped image, and this is all just stuff I'll put in the description, all just details, details, details. But as you can see here, there's no specific information. So the first thing we're going to get is not an image. The first thing we're going to get is an image prompt. We're using a prompt to create a prompt first, then we use that prompt to create an image. We're using a prompt to create a prompt, and then we're using that prompt to create an image. This is an essential piece, and it's very powerful, very cool. So basically, it's going to just put in the details here. All right, create a single uncropped Image arranged in a 3x3 grid. Exactly 9 unique square panels. Let's make sure our words are here. There they are. Very well formatted. Let's make sure down here it is photorealistic. There we go. Okay. So now we could just say create the image, but I want to just go through the process of copying it. Probably don't need to do this, but we'll just do it. Okay. And pasting it, and then there it is. All of the words are there. Ecstatic, melancholy, anxious, furious. That's a good one. Astonished, content, skeptical, yeah. Embarrassed, well, that's very embarrassed. The embarrassed is a little bit to the right there, but it's there. And proud. So imagine doing this for any 9 words that you're learning and having that in a folder for whatever it is. Adjectives, maybe emotions, right? However you organize things. But having that visual reinforcement is really good when you're trying to get a sense for, yes, I know what the definition of anxious is, but to see that and make that visual connection, well, that's part of immersion. That's part of what you get right out in the world when you learn language as a native English speaker. So try this out for other things, other adjectives, verbs, actions. Really try to push the limits. Sometimes I get some weird cropping where it kind of doubles the last one a little bit, but usually it's pretty good at getting all of the words right and all of the details of the word right in the image. Next, let's try learning grammar visually. Learning grammar can be tricky. You may need to see a pattern, the structure of the grammar, example sentences. But it's also helpful to try to get an intuitive understanding of grammar so that you don't have to think about it when you're speaking, right? So you often see things like diagrams or images, maybe in an infographic, to help you understand conditionals or modal verbs or whatever. There are a couple of different ways to do this, but let's try leaving it up to ChatGPT to come up with a creative and intuitive way to show me or help me understand grammar in a deeper way. So this prompt is going to be pretty simple. Create an image prompt to generate an intuitive and creative image that helps me understand English grammar. Note, once again, I'm first creating the prompt, then I'll use that prompt to create the image. Very important. That's what we're doing here. It should be detailed and highly visual. Avoid a boring diagram. Any example sentences or specific grammar structures should be included directly in the image prompt so they appear inside the final image. Very important. We want all of the content, the text, to be in the prompt before we create the image, because we're kind of using the bandwidth of creating the image to create a good image. We don't want ChatGPT to have to think of the text exactly and how to represent it in an image at the same time. It's better if we do that in 2 steps. That's why we create the prompt first. Also specify the format to avoid cropping and visual formatting issues. Choose an aspect ratio. That means vertical or landscape or 4:3 or 16:9, whatever. Choose an aspect ratio that makes the most sense for the content. And then, not very well formatted, but grammar I want to learn, modal verbs. We could put something else. We could try maybe conditionals, whatever. Let's change it. I want to do conditionals. Okay. So let's do conditionals like if, then, those sorts of things. Okay. Image prompt, a surreal, richly illustrated landscape split into 4 distinct zones, each representing a different type of English conditional, 0, 1st, 2nd, 3rd. Each zone is a unique environment, atmosphere, and color scheme that reflects the logic and emotional tone of the conditional, with floating banners. I like this. This is good. Zone 3, a dreamlike floating island in the sky. A person lounges on a throne made of clouds, imagining themselves as a king or queen. Banner says, "If I were rich, I'd travel the world." Okay, so we're getting a kind of visual, and yes, the text is here, and I could say, oh, well, I just have the text, that's enough. But be honest with yourself, having that visual reinforcement to understand it a little more intuitively makes it more memorable, makes it stick, and makes it more intuitive to understand as well, right? That's pretty creative. So again, we're doing our thinking, our content thinking in the first step where we create the image prompt, and then we use the second step, creating the image, to just basically make it all visual, not to do any of the actual thinking. So let's paste this, let's copy it and paste it and see what we get. While we're waiting for that, let me just quickly talk you through English fluency in 90 days. This is my 90-day program, and I believe it is the best, most efficient, and most cost-effective way to achieve English fluency in 90 days. It's pretty intense. There's a lot of content, but it's not just content. There's a lot of work to do, assignments to complete, checked by custom AIs, custom GPTs. You also practice conversation with AIs, and you get my WhatsApp so that you have accountability and someone to check in with throughout the program. So you have to stick with it. But if you do, you're going to change habits and you're going to break through that feeling of, I'm just not making progress. I'm super proud of it. I think it is a great way to improve your English fluency. And if you don't think so, once you get to the end, you're welcome to request a full refund. Yes, that sounds crazy, but you can get a full refund if you're not happy with your progress. So check that out in the links in the description. Okay, this one is good. If you heat water, it boils. If plus present simple. Nice. I don't know why you need to heat it in a test tube, but okay. If it rains, I'll stay home. There's the rain. That looks good. If I were rich, I'd travel the world. So sitting in a cloud, kind of maybe daydreaming, looking at a map of the world, that's pretty good. If I had studied harder, I would have passed the test. If plus past perfect would have, and then past participle. Pretty good. What is this in his hand, though? Is that something related to the test? I'm not so sure. But yeah, that's a good one. I like this one. All right, let's move on. Being able to describe things well is very important. But there's sometimes this feeling, I don't know what to say. I don't know where to begin. How do I work on that skill? There are many ways, but doing it collaboratively can give you a push, and then seeing the results of what you created can be rewarding and kind of keep you wanting to continue practicing. So let's collaboratively create a story with ChatGPT using images for each thing that we create. In fact, what we're going to do first is build the world. Then we can continue with the story. If you want to make this a step-by-step story, you can adjust the prompt and do that too. But what we're going to do here first is establish a kind of world for a story using our imaginations and our ability to describe things. And we're going to do it kind of piece by piece. Let's build a fictional world together using image generation. For each step, you give me a broad world-building category, like terrain, factions, key characteristics, history, etc. Offer 3 to 4 very short suggestions as inspiration. I choose one or write my own short image description. You generate the image. I type next to move to the next category. All right, so let's start. Here's the first world-building category. Terrain, landscape, suggestions, floating crystal islands, subterranean mushroom forest, endless rusted desert, glacial spires above boiling seas. Let's do subterranean mushroom forest, but I need to add more detail and make this more interesting. So maybe I say something like, thick clusters of giant mushrooms rise from the damp glowing floor, their caps stretching wide like umbrellas in the dark. Soft blue and green lights pulse from their stalks, lighting the cave in a quiet, eerie glow. So now what we should get is an image. that captures the description. So it's kind of like an immediate reward, and then we move on to the next step in the story. Ooh, wow, that's very, very mysterious. Very mysterious. I like that. All right, now we type, that's kind of our environment. Gotta love a mushroom forest. Then I type next. Inhabitants, bioluminescent mushroom folk, blind cave-dwelling scholars, insect-riding scavenger clans, spirit echoes trapped in crystal husks. Let's go in a completely different direction here. The toothbrush creatures are real creatures, old, bent, and faded, with bristles splayed from years of use. They live in snug huts beneath the mushrooms, built from twigs, pebbles, and bits of cloth. Each day they scrub the smooth stone paths with quiet focus, polishing the glowing surface until it shines. The forest echoes with the soft, rhythmic scrape of bristles on stone. This is the last one we'll do here. Oh, wow. A toothbrush creature. There it is. That is a weird-looking thing. It's got two brushes, but consistently, they all have two brushes. So I kind of like that. It makes sense because if they're going to scrub the path here, they're probably going to want to do that with a bottom brush. Maybe they use the top brush for other things. I'd have to figure that out, I suppose. But yeah, that's pretty accurate to my description. Wow. I'm already getting some story ideas here. There's some tension among these brush creatures living under the mushrooms. Wow. Let's just see what the next category is, just because I'm curious. Let's see. History, mythology. The great soaking, a flood that awakened the first brush. The molt, an age when bristles fell and regrew stronger. The lost cap, a sacred relic said to grant eternal polish. Wow. The rise of the lint king, a villain once trapped in a dryer. Those are good. This is, so you can see kind of building outward from this, each one a new image. And I know, this is something you can do generally in image generation, but I wanted to make sure we at least touched on something like this, because this iterative back and forth kind of playful way of using images, especially with this latest update, I find it does a good job of intuitively capturing descriptive details and then representing those descriptive details in an image that somehow feels right, even if you don't state everything clearly. So in that way, it feels very collaborative. This sort of story building, then eventually getting to maybe a specific narrative, is a lot of fun. So try that out. Now let's see if we can create an image for a memory palace. So when I'm trying to imagine an image for my memory palace, usually I use a mnemonic. This is something that sounds like or is somehow associated with another thing, making an association to help me remember both the meaning of the word and the sound of the word itself, right? The actual word. So for millenarianism, my memory palace is Dennis Miller. You may or may not know Dennis Miller, holding up a sign that says the end is near. And since my memory palace is in a particular city, it's actually there in my mind, he's standing in front of a Planet Fitness. Okay, so you've got Dennis Miller holding a sign that says the end is near, standing in front of a Planet Fitness. Now, why the end is near? Because that's what millenarianism is about. So Miller, Dennis Miller, reminds me of millenarianism. And then the meaning of millenarianism, the thing I'm associating with Dennis Miller, is this concept of the end of the world coming soon, at the end of the millennium. So let's try this out. Millenarianism. Create an image of Dennis Miller standing on the street outside of Planet Fitness with a sign that says the end is near. Pretty simple. There we go. There it is. Planet Fitness. Dennis Miller. That is Dennis Miller. And he's got a sign that says the end is near. Now I save that to my memory palace. Great. Let's try one more. Ding an sich. This is kind of a term used in philosophy, especially by people like Immanuel Kant, about the thing in itself. Okay, well, that basically means the thing that I can't really know about, that it is to itself. Maybe I don't have access to it. So, it's philosophical, and it's kind of unnameable or unknowable. So how can I represent that? Well, I have to use my imagination to do that. Alan Watts, in a well-lit Asian-style room, in front of a small audience, ringing a gong with a word bubble above his head that says, it's just ... So it's just ... and then he's ringing a gong, which goes ding, and when it goes ding, it reminds me of the ding an sich. And it's just reminds me that I can't say what it is, so the only thing that it can be is what it is, which is the ding. Okay, it's kind of complex, but it makes sense to me. Okay, there it is. Alan Watts saying it's just, and he's dinging a gong in a room with some people. Perfect. So I can add that to my, let's say, Memory Palace folder and review it kind of like a flashcard. All right, now, finally, let's try something that works sometimes and sometimes doesn't work. A few times I got it to work, but it's, I think, right on the edge of ChatGPT's image generating capabilities. That is creating a comic book. I want, in the panels, a realistic conversation between two people, and in that conversation, I want 2 phrasal verbs. Now, I tried this with 4 phrasal verbs, with each person in the conversation talking within each panel. Very difficult. Usually it didn't work. So right now, 2 phrasal verbs and 1 person only speaking within each panel. Anything beyond that makes the results very unpredictable and generally not great. But as it gets better, you can add more. That means more people speaking in each panel and maybe more phrasal verbs per page of the comic book. So here are our instructions. Create an image prompt. We're creating a prompt, not the image yet, that integrates phrasal verbs I'm learning into a natural conversation. Use the prompt template I provide. Create specific dialogue in the prompt itself. Keep dialogue relatively short without compromising conversation flow. Make each panel only have 1 person speaking. Here are the phrasal verbs I want to learn, go over, come across. Here is the template. And then we have a full template that I will include. And so first we need to get just, what do we get? Just the prompt, okay? Okay, so there we go. There are the 2 phrasal verbs, and we have, check the dialogue, make sure it's natural, right? Panel 1, hey, did you get a chance to go over my resume? Character 2 says, yeah, I went over it last night. Looks solid, just a couple of small tweaks. Cool, by the way, I came across this job posting that sounds perfect for you. And then 4, oh yeah, send it my way. I'll check it out tonight. We got a bonus, check it out. Nice. So let's try this one. And again, trying to do this with more phrasal verbs and with multiple people speaking, for example, 2 different word bubbles in one panel, it just wasn't working. I'll show you some of my testing here. So, I mean, this looks pretty good, right? But it's not perfect. This is about as close as I was able to get. We should go over our plan for the trip. There's still a lot to figure out. This person was supposed to be talking, and now there's another person here with a green shirt. I came across this hiking trail guide. It looks amazing. It doesn't have everything perfect. This is toke off instead of take off. So I was trying to do 4 phrasal verbs, 2 people speaking in each panel, and it just wasn't working. So hopefully we'll get there. Let's see what we get when we're only doing 2 phrasal verbs. Should be a lot easier. Okay, so here we go. Hey, did you get a chance to go over my resume? Yeah, I went over it last night. Looks solid. Just a couple's small tweaks. And also, suddenly, this man has changed into another man. All right? Cool, by the way, I came across this job posting that sounds perfect for you. And he's back. Oh yeah? Send it my way. I'll check it out tonight. Now, apart from the obvious visual inconsistencies, swapping out of characters, there are a couple of text issues, just a couple's small tweaks. And also, look at this bubble here. This should be the other guy talking, I believe, right? It should be near his mouth. So this, I think, is right on the edge of the image, the new image generation capabilities. But I wanted to still show you, and in my testing, it was also very inconsistent, these similar kinds of issues, because I think this has a lot of potential, both for image generation and video generation, to be able to create a dialogue using language that you want to learn, right? Whether it's phrasal verbs or sentence types or whatever. Eventually, you'll be able to just create a 5-minute video, right, with the language that you want to learn. Or maybe you insert yourself into the conversation so that you can see yourself using the language. And that's pretty cool. So not perfect, right? But the approach, I think, is still a good approach. For 4 of the 5 that we looked at, what we do first is state requests for creating a specific image prompt. Then we use that prompt to create the image. And that allows us to get a pretty reliable result in most cases, although sometimes it's a little too complex. Also very important, if we want specific text, we need to put that in the image prompt, not ask for that when we're creating the image itself. All of the specific text needs to be in the prompt, okay? So try all of these approaches out. This is all very new. I think it's very exciting, very cool, a lot of potential, but try it out for yourself. And let me know how it goes. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Get a free course in the links in the description. And check out the 90-day program, the best way to achieve English fluency in 90 days. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.